Hey guys, so here is part one of the 7.5 notes. We are now going to get into our different ratios. Today we're going to be talking specifically about tangent ratios. So what are trigonometric ratios? Basically ratios of lengths of two sides in a right triangle. Basically we use trig ratios to find the length of a side or a measure of an acute angle. Now for these purposes, for the 7.5 and 7.6 notes, we're going to be using these trig ratios to find the side length, okay, of a triangle. Later on, actually in 7.7, we will use our trig ratios to measure an acute angle, okay? So just kind of know that for a little bit later on. Okay, now there are 6 trig ratios. Basically right now, we're going to be just talking about tangent. So basically, like the short version we write is tan. We don't like to write always tangent every single time, so you will see the shorthand of tan. Now in 7.6, you'll see sine. Now it says S-I-N, don't say sin, it is still sine even though we shorthand it. And then we have cosine, don't say cos, it is cosine, though we shorthand it COS. And the other ones that we have here is cotangent, which is COT, cosecant, and secant. So those are just some of the other trig ratios. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the tangent ratio specifically. So with this, we always have a right triangle. So that's basically this entire chapter that we have right triangles, okay? So let's say we are given the angle A, okay? So when we are talking about tangent, we're going to have tan, okay? We write tan. Let's say we have angle A. So you always put whatever that trigonometric ratio that you want, the angle, okay? And basically this is going to be the opposite side over the adjacent side. So opposite we've kind of been talking about, right? It's across from the angle A. So that's going to be our opposite here, okay? And then adjacent means right next to. So what is the side right next to? Well, you could say the one that is, across from the 90 degrees. But remember, every single time there's a side across from the 90 degrees, that will always be the hypotenuse. So we can't really use that here. Instead, what we have to use is the other, and which is a leg. So we always want to make sure we have legs here, okay? So you can say opposite side or opposite leg and adjacent leg. That might help you a little bit better when you're doing this, okay? So that is going to be our tangent ratio. So we're always going to have the opposite leg over the adjacent leg. Okay, let's look at example 1. So we're going to find tangent of S and tangent of R. We're going to write each answer as a fraction and as a decimal around 4 places if it's necessary. Okay, let's start first with tangent of S. Okay, so I have tangent of S equals, so I need to label what is my opposite leg and what is my adjacent leg. Now first, I'm going to go ahead and say what is the hypotenuse, because we know we can't use the hypotenuse. So remember, the side that is across from the 90-degree angle, that is our hypotenuse, and we are not going to use that side. So, okay, now opposite. Remember, opposite means it's across from our angle S. In this case, it's going to be the 60. And then the side or leg that is right next to our angle S is going to be the 25. So that's going to be adjacent. Okay, so always label. We've been doing that a lot in this chapter, right? Labeling our triangles. Okay, so I do 60 over 25. Now, let's go ahead and we are going to make sure we simplify that fraction, figuring out what values go into it. Okay, it looks like 5 can go into it. So 60 divided by 5 gives us 12. And 25 divided by 5 gives us 5 as well. So make sure you simplify your fractions. Now we can also plug 12 divided by 5 into our calculator to get the decimal form. Okay? So we do 12 divided by 5, and we get 2.4. And since that's our answer, we really don't need to round to 4 decimal places. You don't have to, since really that's just it. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's find the tangent of r. So I'm going to use different colors here, and I'm going to erase my adjacent and my opposite. And I'm going to erase the s so it doesn't get too confusing. Okay, so here's my r. I'm going to use that as red, okay? Hypotenuse stays the same. That doesn't actually change at all. So I have tangent of r. So we need to figure out what is the opposite side or opposite leg. Remember, that's across from our angle r. That's going to be 25. And then the adjacent leg, that's going to be our 60. So this is opposite. And then for our 60, because that's right next to your angle r, that's going to be our adjacent. So always, always, always label your triangle. It helps. Okay, we need to simplify. Once again, these are really the same numbers. So we do 25 divided by 5, and then 60 divided by 5, right? So notice, basically all what happened is that our fraction flipped. So we went from 60 over 25 to 25 over 60. So now let's go ahead and plug 5 divided by 12 into our calculator. This we will need to round to 4 decimal places. So we get 0.416. Now here, when we plug it into our calculator, we need to round up. So we're going to have 7. So here's our answer for tangent of r. Okay. Okay, make sure you watch the next video. It's going to be over example 2.